And it just happened so fast. I went from 3 staff to sort of 36 staff within 12 months. You know, we went from a couple of $1 million turnover to tens of millions of dollars of turnover. We went from being an Australian-based business to a very global business. So it was a lot of scale.
Building a business is tough and doing it alone even tougher. Welcome to She Talks, your go-to podcast for raw, relatable and ridiculously useful business advice. I'm Lisa Jones and I'm both a mum and a serial entrepreneur, and I'm here to help share real stories and proven strategies to help you scale up your business. Let's do this together. Welcome back to She Talks. I'm Lisa Jones, and this is part 2 of my powerful conversation with the incredible Lisa Messenger, founder of Collective Hub, creative visionary and queen of reinvention. In this episode today, we're going to dive into what life looks like on the other side of hustle. Lisa shares how she rebuilt a wildly profitable, soul-aligned business with 0 full-time staff, and how she leverages her personal brand to drive impact, and why she's obsessed with AI and how she's using it to create more space and success in her life. If you're ready to build a leaner, smarter business that actually feels good, then this episode is packed with gold, and let's dive in. You know what I'm watching as I'm listening to you, and listeners, sorry, I can see Lisa as well at the moment, but it's almost like a physical reaction in your body where you're like, and then you realize you're on the mouse wheel again, and suddenly your brain becomes tumultuous and your body is like, you've poised again into like the sprint mode, right? Is that the recognition that you're like, wait, that's what I'm not doing now?
Yeah, I think so. And it's hard, right? I mean, it's not so hard now, but probably 18 months ago when I started going into this different pace, I was like, oh God, no, I need to build like a big SaaS business, or I need to build something big again. But also, Stephen, my partner, is on his 3rd big tech startup where he has a lot of investors, and I walk into the house down there and I'm like, oh God, oh no, there's a reminder right in front of me, like just how stressful and how much you have to work for other people and how tied to it you are. So yeah, I really like where I'm at. Look, I'm not saying it's forever. I mean, I think I've got a few more biggies in me, but I would certainly do them in a very different way, much leaner, and yeah, I don't know, let's see where we go, but for now I'm just loving where I'm at.
Lise, you've had an incredible career and you've done a lot of amazing things, and you've had the benefit of 24 years of building your personal brand. If you were talking to someone else, and I know you do at your retreats, you talk to amazing women every month, what would be your advice to somebody starting a personal brand now around how to get attraction and followers and engagement and the things we need to sell whatever it is we're selling?
And it's so funny because I didn't do it intentionally ever. And I feel like now sometimes I'm on stage or something and someone will be like, how do I build a brand like yours? And I'm like, well, I think it's about really knowing what you stand for and being unapologetically you. I mean, that's my thing. Whatever you see, right? I mean, some people, their personal brand is being very curated. So I think you need to go back to going, well, why do you want it and to what end? And who are you trying to connect with, and what will they understand or resonate with? I mean, personal brand, I think, and it's interesting in 2025, I think a lot of founders are now becoming personal brands, whereas often it wasn't that. Someone would produce a product and they may be in the background and they weren't so much the face of it, which can be a very good strategy if you're wanting to exit. But more so I'm finding now that people are doing what I did back probably in 2012, 2013, which is I just kind of told the story behind the story as it was happening. And I think that is really where my success and the success of Collective Hub came from, is that rather than just presenting something, actually telling people why it happened and how it happened and what it stands for, and talking about, the messiness behind the curated thing that people see. And I think once you start doing that, you become relatable and attainable, and people are like, oh my gosh, I like this person, I want to know more about them. I've always said that, and I've done a lot of speaking gigs for all sorts of brands, from Schweppes to Purina to Combank to you name it. And so often I've also done work with their marketing teams or whatever. And I think traditionally so many people are like, well, here's the thing. And I'm like, forget the thing. Let's just all agree the thing is great or we wouldn't be having this conversation in the first place. Now, what's behind the product? Tell me the story. Tell me why you started. Tell me what you believe in. Tell me your journey. Tell me about sustainability. Tell me about supply chain, financials, what do you stand for? Who are you? And I think more and more, that's what personal brands are, really. If you can be that person in the face of, you just give a whole nother dimension to whatever it is that you're selling. I remember reading, I think it was Peter Alexander's book years and years and years ago. And it really stuck with me. It might have been an interview about it or something, but he was like, it actually doesn't matter if I'm selling pajamas. I can sell anything now. And it's so true. Once you have that, I mean, mine was really born out of telling the story behind the magazine, but anyone can do that for their brand. And then it was like, oh, now people have that trust. Now people know who I am. Now they'll go on the journey, which is why my AI retreats are selling out. Because I think also because I'm saying, I don't understand tech. I'm just learning it and I've got time and space to do it. And here it is. And I think a lot of people are attracted to that because they're like, wow, most people talking about AI now are like men who are really techie and I don't relate to them. So I think once you do have something that there's that relatability, people will go along on the journey with you.
Yes to everything you've just said. Right now in 2025, it's harder to get people's attention than it's ever been before. And we know this is true. It's a keynote I present. I've learned out of retail trends coming out of the US is that content is king. Imperfect is perfect because nobody has time for perfect curated content these days. Mostly we're more interested and voyeuristically aroused by the imperfect, right? We like it to be rustic and lo-fi kind of video is really performing at the moment. And I think, the advent of TikTok has been a big part of that because we have a 10-second attention. Well, I mean, I know TikTok's like a half a second, but let's talk to our generation, Lise. We want to get behind and even, there's a statistic that I share, which is around Unilever, which is clearly a large global enterprise level brand that makes a lot of things, but in particular men's shaving stuff. They've diverted 50% of their marketing funds away from paid advertising and into content creators and UGC for that kind of lo-fi behind the scenes content that is storytelling. And I think that speaks to exactly what you just shared. You were just 10 years ahead of anybody else in this space, which is if you tell your story and you do so in a way that feels raw and real and vulnerable, people are either going to like you or they're not. And the ones that don't, well, they can just fuck off, right? We're not interested in them. We just want the ones that do like what it is that we're sharing and we're able to deeply connect with them. And then I think you've been most definitely the black belt in this because you've been doing this for a long time and you have a cult-like following of women who adore you and would do anything that you ask them to do for you because they bought into your story a really long time ago and you keep them connected. I would love to know, what are a couple of tips that you have for our listeners today around the best ways to share your story? What's working for you right now?
I mean, I don't overthink it too much. I mean, for all the years having so many staff, we've got, I think, 17 different social media channels, crazy. But on my personal Instagram, it's never been run by anyone but me. I just share literally in the moment, whatever comes. And over the years when people are like, oh no, let's schedule it all. And I was like, no, because I need to do whatever it is in the moment. I think when you and I are together probably as well, people are often shocked because I'll just pick up my phone and be like, do it, and then hit send and I never watch it again or do anything. And people are like, what? But nothing really for me is curated. So I think be unafraid to be as genuinely authentic as you can, but also do have some boundaries, I think. And, the world's a little crazy right now. And I've been thinking more and more about how much I share Hugo on my social platforms and things. I do think we do need to be a little bit careful. But I think, if you've got a brand or you're starting a brand, and this is what I often say to people, people will say, but I don't even know where to start. And I say, that's the perfect place. Pick up your phone right now and say, I've got no idea where I'm going. I don't know what I'm doing, because people will love that. And then as you start learning, take them on the journey with you, like all of it, and go, okay, today I'm going to try this. Oh, that didn't work. People will fall in love with your brand if that's what you do. The very first editor's letter I wrote, which was February 2013 in Collective Hub Print magazine, and someone brought it to my retreat a couple of weeks ago, and I read it again, and I was like, the first half of my editor's letter, I shared my vision that I wanted to have the greatest media movement on the planet, that I wanted to help entrepreneurs and do it like kind of Martin Luther King, really, like it was very powerful. And then in the second half, I said, and I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing. I've never done this before. And it was so funny because what I still call actual editors that were like Edwina McCann from Vogue at the time, and, Kelly from Harper's Bazaar, and Edwina. Anyway, they were all real editors, and they all contacted me and they're like, oh my God, no one's ever done that in an editor's letter. But I'm so glad I did, because it's been captured forever, and I could never have known then that it would go where it went. And so I'm so proud when I look back at that and go, I shared the messy middle. I shared that I had no idea what I was doing. So I think there's never a right time to start. Don't wait until it's curated and perfect. Just start today. Just pick up your phone or your Substack or your LinkedIn or whatever it is, and just say, I don't really know what I'm doing, but I'm going to take you on the journey with me. People love that. And, they love seeing the highs and they love seeing the lows. I think the lows are the really relatable bit. Stephen always laughs at me. He's like, oh, well, as soon as you cry on Instagram or you're having a really bad day, your following goes up so much, because people are kind of like, you're just like me. And I think that's really important, to not just show the curated and the perfect, because that is unattainable. And I don't really think it's very aspirational if people are like, well, I can never do that. I don't know how she got there. So tell them how you're getting somewhere, or tell them what you stand for.
I love that so much. I have a thing I set myself this week, and listeners are probably going to have a little laugh in a second when I share what it is, but I think we don't talk about poos and farts enough. And I don't talk about poos and farts in the podcast normally. Please don't be horrified, or on my socials, but I have hemorrhoids at the moment, and they happened when I got pregnant, and they become quite painful and reoccurring. And I made a decision about 3 days ago that I was going to share it. When everybody said, how are you? I was going to tell them the truth. And it's actually caught quite a few people unawares in the last few days. But I couldn't agree more with you. I feel like nothing annoys me more than when I say, how are you? And everybody just goes, great. And that's it. And I'm like, but how the fuck really are you? Like I think people want to get under the hood, mate. They're like, it's too boring to stay perfect. It's not connecting. It doesn't allow our hearts to open. It doesn't allow our minds to be blown. It doesn't allow us to deeply connect with another human when everything's just good, perfect, great. And so I talk about hemorrhoids at the moment. And I think it's made everybody a little bit surprised, and perhaps given them permission to share something back.
Yeah, thank you. And I am sorry to hear that you are experiencing hemorrhoids. And if you're not talking about farts and poo, you're not spending enough time in my household at the moment. We have our 16-year-old dog, Benny, and our just 2-year-old child, Hugo. And Benny seems to have lost all control of his bowels. And, Hugo is just at the other end of the spectrum. And then, so there's always some form of poo somewhere in the house. And
joy of joys.
But actually, Lisa,
isn't it?
Can I say something about that? Because what I will say is this. I think it's really great to share everything, but I remember when I used to help people publish books before I launched the mag, and, I think we also need to share from a place that is still not sitting in the wound, and sometimes it's the more healed space. And if I go back to, as you know, I gave up drinking 20 years ago, 20 years and 2 months, and we'll know whatever we're up to. No, not 2 months. Gosh. Anyway, on the 8th of November, it will be 21 years. But I've always said that sort of alcoholism is a part of my story. It's not my whole story. And I've always said to people, be careful in terms of sharing and personal brand, how much you share and how you want it to land. So if I'm doing a keynote speech or something, I'll often say, when everything changed for me, I decided to, I was using alcohol as a crutch and blah, 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 blah. So I'll say it to make the point, but then I'll say something like, oh, but, you know, I've got more alcohol in my fridge than anyone. I just choose not to drink it. And I'm always the first one to table dance. And so it sort of like diffuses the thing, because I never wanted to be stuck in, oh, well, she's that. Or same with, after 17 rounds of IVF, I ended up having one of my dear friends and editors, Sarah, carry Hugo as a surrogate for me. And again, I don't want my whole story, because we did so much media. And then I had to kind of go, I don't want my whole story and Hugo's whole story to be about, oh, that's the surrogacy girl. Or, you know, so I'm always like, also aware of like what to share and when, and also when to pare back on it. Because for me, I want the narrative to continue that, you know, I'm the kind of anything's possible and keep reinventing and keep changing. And I don't want like those pieces are part of my story. They're not my whole story. So that's what I would say to people. Yes. And in the vein of your hemorrhoids, it's like, now that you're going to be sharing everything, that's just a part of the very rich story that is Lise. And
I think the reason I share it, though, and possibly the reason you share your really vulnerable pieces too, is I don't want anyone to ever look from the outside into my life and think it's perfect. I'm pretty good at posting a great outfit that I might wear, or that I've traveled somewhere and I'm staying in a beautiful hotel, or I feel it's really unrealistic or unobtainable to try and position myself as having a perfect life. And I really chafe against that. But I also agree with everything you just shared around not being too judgmental either. So like in my home, if you followed on my stories, you'd know my husband's been to rehab and he's not drinking anymore. He's abstaining from alcohol potentially for the rest of his life because it wasn't a good match for him. It exacerbated his, you know, military PTSD. And so I've chosen for a while not to drink either. And that isn't decision for me, that's supportive more than it is anything. But equally, if I was to say something about not drinking, I wouldn't want it to come across as I'm judging others if they do drink, because it's everybody's choice as to what they choose to do. My thing is around making sure that everybody feels whole and welcome. This is just my version of keeping shit real.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's so important, because I 100% agree with you. It's a tightrope, right? Because we work our asses off in business to have the lifestyles and to have the things. And we've made so many sacrifices in order to do that. I'm talking for, you know, so many listeners. And yet it's not all perfect, and it never will be. There's always going to be messy, unexpected things beyond our control that happen. That's just how it is. And so to look in at anyone's life and go, well, it's okay for them. It's, you know, in fact, that's why I started writing so many books, because when the magazine started taking off and did really well, people were just seeing from the outside in. And I was like, oh my God, okay, now I need to write. And I ended up writing a series of 7 books and 3 playbooks, so 10 in total, just charting the magazine's journey. Because the first one was daring and disruptive, because people were like, well, I don't get it. So that book was all about entering a highly saturated industry, And then people were like, oh, if they came a bit later to the journey, they were like, oh, but you must have had all this money, because how else could you have done it? So then I wrote a book called Money and Mindfulness, because I was like, no, I had no money. I was like really good at trading and collaborating and what's in it for you? What's in it for me? What's the value exchange? So that was that whole book. And then people were like, oh, but how do you have time for all this? So then I wrote a book called Life and Love, which was all about the rituals and the routines and the family and all the things that happen behind the scenes. So that's largely why I started writing so many books, is I was like, here, I'm going to share all the stuff so you know how I'm doing this brand. So that kind of leans into personal brand as well. Just take people on the journey, whatever it is, warts and all, and just don't let people pigeonhole you or judge you because of certain parts of your story, and don't let them keep you in that, because we all evolve and we all change and we all adapt, and nothing is permanent. I'm leaning into impermanence a lot. I know that now. So, yeah.
Let me guess, you've built a successful brand, but now you're feeling stretched, stuck, and unsure how to scale to the next level. I see it all the time. The truth is, what got you here won't get you there. That's where SheCom's Scale Mastermind program comes in. We've helped so many women grow from 6 to multiple 6 and even 7 figures without sacrificing their sanity. If you're ready for real strategic support and to be surrounded by women who truly get it, come join us. You don't have to figure this out alone. head to shecom.co and take that next step. And then we've got the AI piece that slots in here. And I want to talk to that now because like you, I have always had team. This is my 7th company in 14 years, and I've always had people to do the tech because it isn't my thing either. I probably sit somewhere in the middle where I'm quite good at leading the team and setting up systems. I'm not quite as just a creator expert as you are. I probably don't have quite the flair of creativity that you have, but I hover somewhere in the middle. And I have always avoided AI. I knew it was coming. My team use it every day, but I didn't. And then around about 4 or 5 months ago, one of my team who's younger and very clever at AI came into the office, Gabby, for my listeners who know Gabby. And she's like, right, Lise, we need to make you a custom GPT. Like, we're going to get you using this shit. And I have to say, I feel like I should marry my custom GPT and divorce my husband because this has become such a profound feature in my world. I suppose I have the benefit with my custom GPT of having uploaded 4 years worth of podcast episodes and my book. So it's actually learnt the way I speak and the things that I talk about intimately, which has made it so rich in its ability to talk to me. But I bring questions to it, so many questions that are about, yes, I get it to help me come up with ideas for Reels and TikTok and LinkedIn posts, but I get it to strategize exits for my business and look for examples of capital raising and everything. And it has just transformed my life. It honestly, it's so rich. And I cannot believe all of a sudden in an hour, I can build a massive partnership proposal for a global fintech company that would have taken us a month previously. And I can do it in an hour by just go back and do this. No, add more there. And what about this? And there's the context here. Please rewrite this section. And then now do it in this way. And now pitch it to this. And now build it's astonishing how much has changed my life. So I want to know from you, tell me about your relationship with AI and what you think it's doing for business women like us everywhere.
Yeah. So I think people, it's like everyone comes at things and, different levels of adoption and different stages of readiness. And I think AI is no different. And there's still a lot of people out there who are like, oh my God, I'm never going to use AI. And then there's other people, they just see something and they're like, oh my gosh, this is insane. I started using it on a fairly base level. And then I did a qualification through Vanderbilt University in the US and I became a certified prompt engineer. Sounds very posh because I wanted to understand all of the different ways to prompt because I didn't want to just use it like Google. So I've learned, I don't know, there's probably hundreds of different techniques that I've learned now, but really I use ChatGPT as kind of the motherboard for everything. And I think what happens is, I'm going really back to basics to start with. I feel like it's very overwhelming. If you look at Instagram or any channel, there's new AI things and you should try this and you should do this, you should do this. And it's completely overwhelming. And so what I realized was, and also having now run the retreats and mentored people and been around this space for a while, I realized that I think it's a confidence thing and it's a mindset thing. Because if you use ChatGPT or one of the other LLMs, large language models like this, you can just ask it questions about anything at any point. So I've taught myself so much, I want to try this AI platform. Tell me exactly how I do it. And then it's very overzealous and will give you so much information. And then I'll be like, no, just give me one step. And then I'll tell you when I finished and give me a next step. But for me, it's become a confidence thing. And I think it's an absolute game changer in terms of efficiencies. It's just from a business perspective as a creative, I think it just amplifies whatever our genius zone is already if we lean into using it in the right way. And yeah, I've built lots of agents now and custom GPTs and I'm using multiple different platforms. And I just think it changes everything. But if anyone ever gets stuck, just go back and ask it. Oh, that's what I was going to say. There's so many people out there selling prompts, here, sign up to this and get 80 prompts for free. I'm like, you don't need any of that. You just ask your own GPT. If you're starting from fresh, just say, what are all the questions that you need to know from me to help you, be customized to how I need you or whatever. It will give you all of the questions. Or if you say, I need prompts for this. 2 of the most important words I learned early on were act as. These LLMs have access. It's basically the smartest thing on the entire planet and has access to every single thing. So you can say, act as my therapist, or act as a lawyer, or act as, someone, a therapist specializing in domestic abuse and coercive control and gaslighting. Like, you can say act as anything, and those two words will make it pull that information in, and it will give you very, very accurate data. I mean, yeah, there's a lot. So I use it all day, every day. And as I said before, for example, with my novels, I still write them, but I've adapted certain things. Like, I learnt a framework called Save the Cat when I had no idea what I was doing. I mean, I started writing my novels with 2 characters, and I was like, I don't understand how to get more characters. And those characters bored me to tears. And then I was like, oh, okay, well, maybe if she has a workplace, and maybe if she has a mum, so we can talk about her childhood trauma and why she's doing this. And so I started layering. But there's a framework called Save the Cat. So I put into chat here the Save the Cat beats. There's 15 of them. And then I will drop chapters in, and I'll be like, am I sitting in the right space for where I'm meant to be? Or I'll put in a whole lot of emotional impact things, and I'll be like, fear, laughter, whatever the things are, measure me against where am I sitting, and it'll score me and be like, yep, 5 for fear, 1 for laughter, but this chapter shouldn't have had any laughter, so you're all good. Like, yeah, so it's extraordinary how I'm using it. And I would have paid editors before, at least 10 grand a book. Not that I want to put anyone out of jobs. There's still plenty of jobs, but I think it just absolutely amplifies whatever we're doing already.
Oh, and in business, those of you listening now who are considering new promotions or want to know what's getting great engagement on Instagram this week, or looking for competitive companies that might be launching something in your space, or looking for a capital raise, or anything. I'll give you a couple of personal life examples, listeners, of things I've used it for lately that have popped my socks. One is deep research. So I pressed deep research. I went to Dictate, and I told it all about a big holiday. PJ and Maya and I were going to Europe for 9 weeks over Christmas, and I wanted a motorhome, and I was looking for a company that could rent us a motorhome. It had to have winter tires and snow chains, and it had to provide all the bedding and the kitchen equipment and mountain bikes, etc. Like, I gave it such parameters, timing, locations, all of it. And then for a couple of hours it went off, and it brought me back the most incredible company that we've now booked a motorhome through. And it would have taken me weeks and months to find that information. Another one I love is that I had house sitters coming to stay, and I wanted to, how you type up notes for your house sitters of all the logins and when you feed the dogs and what night is bin night. So I literally dictated for about 15 minutes everything I could think of, the dog's personalities, about the house, where to sleep, where sheets are, you name it. And it wrote the most impeccable 6 pages of housekeeping notes to the housekeepers that I literally just printed and put on their bed. Like, there is nothing that it cannot do. And in a business context, I think I've saved the business a lot of money in consulting and mentoring by being able to capture business advice, big business advice on companies in America that are doing things that might align with our exit one day, and then we go and stalk them without needing to pay McKinsey $30,000 for that information, right? Like, there's no limit to what it can do and generate.
Yeah, so I might give a few examples as well, just on that kind of thing. So just some of the retreat attendees, interesting, who've come along, and I've gotten to know their businesses quite well. One business, very, very big business, runs markets, or like markets, big market stalls and big festivals all over Australia. And they employed 12 graphic designers, and they came to my beginners retreat, and they're like, right, we want to be able to do all of our design for all of our outdoor billboards, all of our collateral across every single thing. And I was like, okay, that's a little more advanced than, but I ended up building it within ChatGPT. I built them a custom GPT that, just using DALL-E, actually managed to do all of this and blew their minds. And that wasn't using anything sophisticated. So that was incredible. Another girl who came along, she works for a big homewares business. They've got 9 different businesses globally. She was head of trend forecasting, and she had used AI already a lot, but I just showed her some different ways to prompt, and she burst into tears. She's like, I can't believe this. And literally we were able to pull data and, spreadsheets, and then input what they were doing. And just the amount of information that we were able to extrapolate from it was extraordinary. Another woman works in risk management and had never used anything. And by the end of 3 days, she was using Gamma. So we were creating all this documentation. If anyone hasn't used Gamma, it's amazing for producing decks. Just putting the information in, it spits it out in about 1.5 minutes. These incredible polished decks. So there's so many different tools out there. And that I haven't even started on, having APIs and connecting different things together, but really it can do anything now. So yeah.
So much to unpack in this space around AI and how we can all use it every day in a business. We're almost out of time, but Lisa, I'm going to drop this. You heard it here first. SheCom has hired our own prompt engineer. In fact, she has a PhD in AI and we're building ShePT. So we're a bit excited about what we're building for our clients at the moment. We think it's our job at SheCom to make sure we have not just agentic AI, but we have ShePT for our women. So we're just started a new project. And I think for listeners right now, Lisa and I might sound like we're pretty excited about this, and we are, but I think the important thing to recognize here is you don't need to know how to do everything. You just need to know to start asking. You need to know that it's a part of our future. It's not scary. It's actually incredibly enriching and exciting to understand how to navigate this stuff. And Lisa, if they want to come on an AI retreat with you, they can head to what website?
No website, just DM me. Nope. See, this is one thing. It's funny and it's so, again, ironic really that I've gone quite old school on some things, but very sophisticated on other things. So DM me on my Instagram, Lisa Messenger, and I'll have a real conversation and it will rock your world and change your mind. But yeah, you're absolutely right. It's about asking the right questions. I want to know more about ShePT. Tell me, what is this?
We'll tell you when it's live. I'll tell you off air because it's a bit confidential still, but
amazing.
Definitely know that the clever women in the world, Lisa and I, were thinking about it for all you beautiful listeners of how to bring AI to you in a way that feels really doable and not overwhelming. And I can pretty much guarantee you that Lisa and I will stay in a place of serving you all to bring you stuff. So maybe we need to do a follow-up podcast in 6 months from now, Lisa, where we bring the next wave of GPT and AI tools to our listeners.
And I'm absolutely sure that you and I will do something together.
I know, it's just
but
one day when it sounds like it needs to have a start date and an end date, so Lise doesn't go into mouse wheel overwhelm syndrome.
Yeah. Amazing. Thank you for having me. It has been an absolute honor and a pleasure. And kudos to you and everything that you're doing and bringing to the world. You are one amazing human.
Thank you, Lise. And I look forward to a hug in person soon.
Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of She Talks. I hope today's conversation sparked ideas, gave you strategies you can put into action, and reminded you that you're never alone on this journey. If you loved this episode, head over to shecom.co for today's show notes, exclusive freebies, and special offers from our sponsors. And if you haven't already, hit subscribe so you never miss a future episode. Until next time, keep showing up, keep building, and most importantly, keep talking.